This is the tragic story of Scott Peterson and Lacey Peterson. These two were a couple who met through a mutual friend. Scott Peterson used to work in a restaurant, and on the other hand, Lacey's friend also worked in the same restaurant as Scott. One time when Lacey Peterson was visiting the friend, he met with Scott and suddenly there was a spark between these two. The mutual friend introduced them, they exchanged numbers, and they started talking. They went to numerous dates. Then these two introduced each other to their parents. I don't know if I've made sense there. The parents approved their relationship, and within few months, they walked down the aisle. These two, they had a dream of starting their own family with their own children. Within a short time, Lacey Peterson got pregnant, and these two started looking for a name for their son, and they settled on one name, Connor. Ladies and gentlemen, however, something tragic happened when Lacey Peterson was 8 months pregnant. Lacey Peterson was a teacher, and on the other hand, Scott Peterson was working in a fertilizer company. In this company, most of the time, Scott Peterson was not at home most of the time. He used to go outside for meetings. Sometimes he could sleep outside because the meetings maybe will take 2 or 3 days or even a week. So during these meetings, Lacey Peterson, as a man, he needed some things, especially at night. So he started engaging in extramarital affairs. And in these affairs, he never introduced himself as a married man. Ladies and gentlemen, he was able to cheat several times. And one time he cheated with a masseuse. So this is how Scott and the masseuse met. The masseuse was called Amber Frey. So they were in a meeting. Amber Frey was there to network and get more clients. And on the other hand, Scott Peterson was there to represent their fertilizer company. In between the meeting, Scott spotted the beautiful, sexy young lady. And after the meeting, Scott wasted no time. He approached the masseuse and they had a small chit-chat. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the things they talked about was their current status, their current relationship status. Amber Frey told Scott Peterson that she was a single mother and she ran a massage parlor. And on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, Scott Peterson described himself as a very potential bachelor, a very busy businessman who was also looking to settle down one of these days, one of the fine days. So Amber Frey was so happy to hear that this businessman was also single. They talked throughout the night, and that night, ladies and gentlemen, these two spent it together. They booked a room, and the rest is history. So all this time, the wife doesn't know that Scott Peterson is with another woman. The wife knows that Scott is having a meeting, a company meeting, which he'll finish and come back. Within few days, the meeting was done and Scott Peterson went back to the wife. Then something tragic happened. However, before Scott then went back to her wife in Modesto. They continue seeing each other on and off, on and off. The masseuse and Scott. So one time, Scott Peterson visited the masseuse. He told the masseuse that he was from a business meeting, so he had some time, so he decided to visit the beautiful lady, the masseuse Amber Frey. However, this time he came clean and told the masseuse that he had a wife. However, the wife had just passed away, and it was going to be the first time that he was going to spend the Christmas time alone. This was in November. The wife was still alive while he was uttering these words to Amber Frey. As history would be, they spent the night together again, and Scott Peterson told Amber Frey that he had another meeting, so he had to leave, and he left. He went back to the wife, and on December 24th, 2002, Scott Peterson woke up and went fishing alone. And that evening, when he came back, the wife was missing. In the morning when he went fishing, he left the wife. He said he left the wife. He said he left the wife around. There's some witnesses who stated that they saw them together that morning, ladies and gentlemen. However, when Scott came from the fishing hobby that he liked the most, on that 24th evening, he found the dog roaming in the compound alone. The wife's car was outside in the driveway. Within few minutes, he reported to the police that her wife was missing. After Scott Peterson came back from the fishing, he reported the matter to the police that her wife was missing, and search began immediately. The police visited Mr. Scott's house, and they did some questioning here and there. They realized that after Scott Peterson came from fishing, he did laundry. He did laundry, and that's what he normally did once he came from fishing. Then, the following day, Scott Peterson was called to the police for interrogations. He changed his story. He said that he went golfing and not fishing again. The police did not take it lightly, this changing of story. They started suspecting Scott Peterson might have an hand that led to Lacey Peterson missing. At this point, the family of Lacey Peterson knew that she was missing. The community also knew, and search began all over Modesto. They combed everywhere. They had posters everywhere looking for Lacey Peterson, who was 8 months pregnant. During the search, Scott Peterson did not look remorseful or anything. And also during the search, Scott was communicating with the masseuse Amber Frey. Now, one time when Amber Frey was watching news, he saw Scott Peterson's face on the news and he was shocked. The news took hold of the story about the missing pregnant woman who was 8 months. So the media suspected that Scott Peterson killed or had a hand that led to Lacey Peterson to go missing. And also the media did the investigation and they got to know that Scott Peterson was engaging in extramarital affairs, but they did not know who the lady was. Exactly, her identity was not yet known fully to the public. So the masseuse came out and gave information to the police that he knew that Scott approached him one time and he told her that he was single, he was a single man and a very busy entrepreneur. So the police told Amber Frey to record their calls so that they could get some information in case they talked about Lacey. So Amber Frey agreed and they started recording their calls with Scott Peterson. However, Scott Peterson did not talk about Lacey Peterson, did not talk about killing her or anything of the sort. Scott Peterson was telling Amber Frey that he was missing her, he wished they were together, but these meetings are holding him up in a faraway destination. Scott did not know that he was being recorded. So this information, Amber Frey passed it to the police. Even there was a time during the search or even candlelighting. During the search, Scott Peterson called Amber Frey and told her that he was in New York in a meeting, and it was so amazing. Investigations continued, and one time a resident of Modesto was walking in a nearby place. One time a resident who was also in the search found a body of Lacey Peterson ashore, just off the shore, and reported this to the police, and the police came and picked the body. After a few days, the fetus which Lacey Peterson which Lacey Peterson was carrying, was also found in the nearby place where Scott Peterson claimed that he was fishing on 24th December 2002. The police did a DNA and it was confirmed that it was indeed Lacey Peterson, and the fetus was of their baby who they were going to name Connor. It was a baby boy. And immediately the news spread. The news spread. Scott Peterson was then arrested, and a search was done. In his workshop. Scott Peterson had a workshop. Search was done, and a strand of Lacey's hair was found in the workshop of Scott Peterson. Ladies and gentlemen, he was taken to court with this evidence. The hair strand that matched that of Lacey Peterson. The media was so furious, and they just labeled Mr. Scott Peterson guilty even before the judges had decided their case. Ladies and gentlemen, they had the case, and Amber Frey, the masseuse, came to court as a witness. He told the court that Scott Peterson had told her that in November, before the wife passed, that it was going to be the first time he was going to spend the festive seasons as a single man. The courts decided that the evidence was overwhelming, and Scott Peterson was sentenced to death. Scott Peterson appealed. However, the appeals are still ongoing. Some were denied, some were ongoing. And that's how these two couples ended their beautiful relationship. One ended in prison, and the other one ended 6 feet under. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time.